John Fitzgerald Kennedy, commonly known as JFK, was a figure whose name remains synonymous with a golden era in American politics, an era that was unfortunately cut short by tragedy. From his birth into a prominent political family to his rise as the 35th President of the United States, Kennedy's life was marked by remarkable achievements, personal struggles, and a tragic assassination that shocked the whole world. In this video, we will take an in-depth look at the life of JFK from his early days in Boston, his struggles with his health, his political career, and the poignant moments that defined his presidency, all the way up to his untimely death on November 22nd, 1963. John Fitzgerald Kennedy was born on May 29, 1917 in Brooklyn, Massachusetts, to Joseph P. Kennedy Sr. and Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy. He was the second of 9 children, in a family that, despite its immense wealth, was steeped in a sense of duty and a commitment to public service. Joseph Kennedy, his father, was a businessman who later became the U.S. ambassador to the United Kingdom, while Rose Kennedy came from a family line of politicians in Boston. Growing up in this influential family, JFK learned early the importance of ambition, leadership, and public responsibility. Kennedy's childhood was often marked by illness. He suffered from a range of health issues, including a serious back problem that would plague him throughout his life, as well as Addison's disease, a rare adrenal disorder. Despite his poor health, JFK was determined to success. He attended the prestigious Church Rosemary Hall in Connecticut, where his natural intelligence and charm began to shine, even though he was frequently ill and struggled with rigorous academic demands of school. The Kennedy family was known for pushing their children to achieve greatness, and this pressure was no different for young John. His competitive nature and desire to prove himself were critical factors in his eventual success. After childhood, Kennedy went to Harvard University, where he studied government and international relations. JFK's college years were formative as they shaped his views on politics, the world stage, and America's role in global conflict. He wrote his senior thesis, Why England Slept, which was a critique of British complacency in the years leading to World War II. The thesis was later published as a book and became a bestseller, earning him recognition and respect in the world of political thought. It was at Harvard that Kennedy developed a long-life passion for international diplomacy and a deep interest in history. His experiences at university helped him to forge connections with influential figures who would later become important allies in his political career. His formative years were not just about academics. However, he also honed his athletic skills and leadership qualities, and his experiences overseas gave him an early understanding of the complexities of foreign policy. In 1941, with World War II escalating, Kennedy enlisted in the U.S. Navy. He was commissioned as a lieutenant and served in the Pacific Theater, commanding a PT boat. In 1943, Kennedy's boat PT-109 was rammed by a Japanese destroyer. Kennedy demonstrated remarkable courage and leadership under fire, saving his crew and swimming with an injured crewman to safety. For his heroic actions, Kennedy was awarded the Navy and Marines Corps Medal and the Purple Heart. The experience of serving in the military helped shape JFK's character and also enhanced his growing political reputation. The heroism displayed during the war became one of the central themes of his public life, a story of resilience and bravery that would inspire many. After the war, Kennedy turned his attention to politics. In 1946, at the age of 29, he ran for a seat in the USA House of Representatives. He faced a tough battle, but but his charisma, eloquence, and the financial backing of his influential father helped him secure the seat. During his time in the House, Kennedy established himself as a staunch advocate for social welfare, labor rights, and a strong U.S. foreign policy. He represented the 11th Congressional District of Massachusetts until 1952. In 1952, Kennedy's ambition grew as he set his sights on a seat in the U.S. Senate. He faced the powerful Republican incumbent Henry Cabot Lodge, Jr., but his campaign was well organized and his message resonated with voters. Kennedy's victory in his race marked the beginning of his rise as a national political figure. His eloquence, charm, and progressive platform on issues like social justice and civil rights drew significant attention. As a U.S. Senator from Massachusetts, Kennedy gained a reputation of a forward-thinking leader with a deep understanding of foreign policy, civil rights, and economic issues. His book, Profiles in Courage, which was published in 1956, won the Pulitzer Prize for biography and highlighted the courage of U.S. senators who stood up for their principles despite political pressure. This work solidified his intellectual credibility and helped him gain national recognition as a thoughtful and articulate leader. During his years in the Senate, Kennedy became deeply involved in issues such as the civil rights movement and the Cold War. He was particularly concerned with the rise of communism and the U.S.'s role in containing its spread. His foreign policy views evolved as he began to advocate for more proactive, diplomatic approach to handling tension with the Soviet Union. Kennedy's advocacy for human rights and his strong anti-communist stance would later define his presidency. In 1960s, at just 43 years old, Kennedy decided to run for presidency of the United States. His opponent was Vice President Richard Nixon, who had the political experience and name recognition to make the election a difficult battle. However, Kennedy's youthful energy, vision for a new era of leadership, and personal charisma struck a chord with the American public. One of the most pivotal moments of the 1960 campaign was the first ever televised presidential debate. In these debates, Kennedy's calm, composed demeanor contrasted sharply with Nixon's tired and nervous appearance. This televised event marked a new era in political campaigning, one where image and media presence played a critical role in shaping public opinion. Kennedy won the election by a narrow margin, securing 34,220,984 votes to Nixon's 34,108,157 votes, making it one of the closest presidential races in U.S. history. His victory was historic, as he became the youngest person ever elected president and the first Catholic to occupy the White House. Kennedy's inauguration on January 20, 1961 was a defining moment in American history. His call to public service in his inaugural address, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country," became one of the most memorable and inspiring lines ever spoken by a U.S. president. His presidency was marked by what he termed the New Frontier, a vision of progress and hope aimed at improving American society through scientific advancement, social welfare programs, and a renewed commitment to civil rights. Kennedy's domestic agenda focused on increasing federal funding for education, healthcare, and civil rights. He proposed significant tax cuts to stimulate economic growth, as well as an ambitious space exploration program, which included the famous goal of landing a man on the moon before the end of the decade. His administration also expanded the Peace Corps, an initiative that sent young Americans abroad to assist in developing nations. Internationally, Kennedy faced enormous challenges. The Cold War was at its height, and the tension was with the Soviet Union were escalating. The Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. For 13 tense days, Kennedy and his administration negotiated with Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev, ultimately securing an agreement that led to the removal of Soviet nuclear missiles from Cuba in exchange for U.S. promise not to invade the island. Despite the incredible pressure of dealing with this international crisis, Kennedy remained calm and resolute, garnering worldwide respect for his leadership during this turbulent time. Kennedy also sought to address racial injustice in America, although his commitment to civil rights was sometimes seen as hesitant due to the political climate in the South. In 1963, Kennedy proposed sweeping civil rights legislation aimed at ending segregation and ensuring voting rights for African Americans. His public support for civil rights marked a shift in American politics, and his actions helped pave the way for Civil Rights Act of 1964, which would be passed under his successor, Lyndon B. Johnson. However, despite these significant achievements, Kennedy's presidency was far from without challenges. His health problems continued to plague him, and the pressures of leadership took a toll on his personal life, especially his marriage to Jacqueline Kennedy. Yet, despite these struggles, JFK's determination to lead the country toward greater progress remained a driving force throughout his time in office. On November 22, 1963, Kennedy's life came to a tragic and violent end. While riding in a motorcade in Dallas, Texas, President Kennedy was struck by 2 bullets, one in the neck and one in the head. He was rushed to Portland Memorial Hospital, but he was pronounced dead shortly after arriving. The nation was stunned, and millions of people across the globe mourned the loss of a president who had inspired them with his vision for a better world. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in as the 36th President of the United States aboard Air Force One just hours after Kennedy's death. The assassination of JFK sparked numerous conspiracy theories and led to widespread investigations. But the official account was outlined by the Warren Commission, concluded that the lone gunman was Lee Harvey Oswald, who was arrested for the murder but was killed before he could stand trial. John F. Kennedy's legacy endures in numerous ways. His presidency helped to lay the foundation for civil rights in America, as well as the nation's space program, which would ultimately lead to the moon landing. His leadership during the Cuban Missile Crisis helped prevent nuclear war, and his dedication to public service continues to inspire leaders today. Though his time in office was brief, JFK's impact on the world was profound. His vision for the new frontier, his commitment to global peace, and his belief in the power of the individual to make a difference have continued to resonate long after his death. John F. Kennedy's life was a story of ambition, service, and tragedy. He was a man who had a vision for a better world, a world that he believed could be shaped by the collective efforts of individuals striving for a common goal. His presidency, though brief, marked an era of hope, optimism, and change, and his untimely death left a nation mourning the loss of a great leader. Though his life was tragically cut short, Kennedy's legacy continues to influence politics and culture today, and his message of public service and hope for a brighter future remains a powerful part of his enduring appeal.